Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Elite City Podcast. We are here again this week after the pay-per-view, but not to talk about the pay-per-view. Rick and I are going to stick to the little deep dive stories that we've been doing here. It seems to be doing well, and you've been liking it. So
yeah, and I feel like there's a million people you can go to for like recaps and stuff. And that's not saying we're never going to do that again.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's fun to like go deeper into individuals or storylines or whatever. So we're going to do that today.
Yes. And today's lucky winner was actually Tony Khan. For the reason of it's Rick and I we were talking on our Discord one day, and it was like, it's amazing that it took like almost, well, it took up until 6 years ago for a wrestling company to have an actual business plan before anything. Like, that's absurd. Like the fact
I don't know who it was. Some quote from someone, might have been like, I don't know, Jim Cornette or someone who's been in wrestling forever, who said like the way to make $1 million in wrestling is to start with $10 million because it just costs so much money to run a wrestling company. So I guess it kind of took a billionaire.
Yeah. And it was like the perfect storm too. And we're going to get there, but we're going to do his early life, then just his business ventures, and then we're going to finish with wrestling. So his full name is Anthony Rafiq Khan. He was born October 10th, 1982. This is the part that I think is hilarious. Like, any interview you see with him, like, some of his earliest memories are like wrestling. Like, dude has loved pro wrestling like his entire life.
Yeah.
And
he was going to like ECW shows when he was 13. Yeah,
which that in itself, the fact that his dad was in the crowd in an ECW show was probably a little bit of a more than one way as a culture shock.
Like it being like what, 1996, and your 13-year-old's like, I want to go to a wrestling show, and I'm sure his dad like didn't know much about wrestling. I'm just stereotyping because he's his dad, right? Yeah. But like your son be like, I want to go to this wrestling show, and be like, sure, thinking it's going to be like, you know, Hulk Hogan, whatever. Yes. And then it's 1996 ECW.
it's the Sandman, like, you know, wrapped in barbed wire, coming out drinking a 6-pack on his way to the ring.
Really wonder if he like prepared his dad for that, or was just like, oh no, it's a wrestling show, and his dad thought it was going to just be like a wrestling show.
In my mind, the nerd in him knew that his dad would say no, so he was like, no, like he had made him go in blind. Like,
yeah, I'm sure his dad was like, oh, it's like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. And he's like, yeah, sure.
Yes. And then, like, yes. The people that you see tonight know who those guys are, Dad. I promise you. They know that those guys exist. And we're going to show our age a little bit here. He credits AIM, which, if you don't know, is AOL Instant Messenger, as his introduction to the internet wrestling community.
Didn't he say on like the All Out press conference that he was in an AIM chat with like Luthez or something?
Yes. Which is absolutely incredible.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is.
And that for those who are young, first of all, Instant Messenger was amazing.
Absolutely life-changing.
Also, like the early internet in like the late 90s, like you could do that. You could have a conversation with Luthez. Like people you could just talk to, like, it wasn't like now where like, oh yeah, I'm on whoever's Instagram, and they don't run their Instagram. They have no idea. Right. Like,
yeah.
Back then, you just talk to people on the internet about wrestling, and sometimes they were Luthez.
Yeah, and like that worked for like a lot of industries. Like if you were in like a music chat, like sometimes somebody would just step in like from the music industry that was like big. It was right. It would, like, I mean, your question might not have necessarily got answered, but sure. I mean, it like you said, it was just a live. It was the Wild West. Like, to think about how awesome that was.
Yeah, the early internet was really cool.
Yes, it was.
I know we sound like old guys, but I feel like our audience is all old guys, so they'll appreciate that.
Yeah. And let's see, this is where I'm gonna tag you in on this, because he was also part of various E-Feds growing up, which
E-Feds were amazing.
Dude, you just told me about these like 3 years ago, I had no idea they existed. I would
They
have
were the best and
uh,
nerdiest way to be a wrestling fan. It was so fun.
uh, I would have 2000% done this. Like,
For those who don't know what eFeds were, it was an internet wrestling federation. So somebody ran it and you were all characters. And most of the time, like there were some where you could be real wrestlers. Like people were like, I'm going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. But those were the less fun ones. The more
gotcha.
fun ones were like where people made up their own wrestlers and would write storylines as those wrestlers. And then the person who ran it would write the show and like put those wrestlers. It was incredible. It was a great time. I loved it.
That's so awesome. Like that, you have belief that you might have actually worked with Tony
I'm
Khan,
like
and
50% sure that I was at an eFed with Tony Khan
this is
because I
amazing.
remember I don't remember the name of the show that we had in our wrestling show, but I know he says that he named his shows Dynamite and
Diamond,
Collision
yeah,
and Rampage. Like that's where he got his names from, which is incredible. I
yes,
don't remember the name of this show, but I know the theme music for this, like the pay-per-view was Machine Head by Bush.
okay,
And then when All In started, he uses Machine Head by Bush as the theme song for that show. And that's such a like late 90s E-Fed wrestling theme song to
yeah,
have
yes,
because it's All In was like what 2023.
yeah,
So like that was not a popular song in 2023.
very true.
And it wasn't even like known in wrestling. It's not like, Limp Bizkit is a wrestling band, right? They've
True.
been in a bunch of wrestling things, or like Metallica has been in a bunch of like wrestling promos and
Mhm.
stuff like that, right? Like Bush has not. Bush is an E-Fed wrestling song. And
Amazing.
and I'm pretty sure that I was in a federation that used that as their theme song. And like there's a good chance that that was Tony Khan running that E-Fed. Because he said
Uh,
he ran some.
that's incredible. What an amazing story.
Like
And
I'm
again,
really I was like I wasn't on this whatever I don't remember the name of the message board he said he was on. He was people have found his account from like this like wrestling message board from like 2001 or something, right? Like I don't remember what the name of that message board is now, but I was on a whole bunch of wrestling message boards. Like I was I was the nerd that Tony Khan is, except I didn't have billions of dollars.
ah,
So I was like on all these e-feds and wrestling message boards, and there's the internet, the internet wrestling community or whatever it's called wasn't that big in like,
true,
1999, right? Like
true.
there wasn't that many people on there. So I really think that like I was at least in the same circles as Tony Khan, except I didn't have billions of dollars and he didn't act like he had billions of dollars. I've seen his accounts and he just acts like us, like we would talk on the
Right.
internet 25 years ago. It's incredible.
That is incredible. Like, and it gets to his business ventures. You were talking about like, how he knows how to, again, like a person knows how to talk to people to run a wrestling company. Like, who would have thought that would work? Um, he graduated from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Never heard of that, but it's a very prestigious university. Apparently, I didn't do much. I didn't look into it too much, but it's hard to get into, we'll say. And he got a bachelor's in finance. So, you know, early on in his life, the gears were probably turning on what he wanted to do because, you sent me an interview with his dad one time, and his dad made sure like his kids knew what it would be like to work because his dad wasn't born into billions of dollars. He worked for the company that he ended up buying to turn into a $1 billion company, which
His
is
dad's
incredible.
story is like crazy on
Yes.
itself. Like the
Yeah.
fact that he like worked for like an auto parts company and then ended up buying and then like through a
Yes.
series of buying other auto parts companies became a billionaire. Like
Yeah.
that in itself is incredible.
And and the fact that he, taught his kids humility and education and didn't just give them things, I think is like a very honorable in
So
this day and age.
I don't know anything about, NFL football. Did
Yes.
he just bought the Jaguars as like a guy who's rich and wanted to run a football team, right?
Correct.
He wasn't like in football prior to that.
His dad?
Yeah. His dad
No.
just like bought the team.
No, it was just like a rich guy flex thing to do. Like, oh, we have a jet, we have a yacht. What don't we have? Oh, wait, there's only 32 NFL teams. We can get one of them.
I feel like that's, like, how I would be a rich guy. Like, you see rich people today who are, like, buying social media networks. Like, if I was gonna buy something and cost billions, it would be a sports team because, like how Tony Khan is just like, "I always wanted to run a wrestling company, so I bought one or started one."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if you have billions upon billions of dollars, why not be like, I always liked football. Maybe I'll just run one of the teams. Like, why not?
And and it's one of those things, like, no matter like, even if you're an idiot and run it into the ground, they don't lose their value. You know
Right.
what I
It's
mean?
a
Like,
professional sports team. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, I mean, you have to do like, we were talking about the Pirates before we went on air. The Pittsburgh Pirates are ass. That's you don't even have to bleep that. That's legit. That's, when you look them up, it just says ass. Like,
And I like because the only thing I know about them is everyone wants the guy to sell the team.
yeah, like no, yeah, and that's the other thing. Like the whole city wants the team sold because it's an embarrassment, but they're still worth billions of dollars. Like
Yeah,
that's
and
the
people still
sad.
go because it's like baseball's fun, right? So,
And in Pittsburgh, it's like super cheap for like literally $10. You can get a ticket.
and the stadium is cool, and like even if your team is bad, like the other teams come to you, right? So like
That is true.
if you want to see star players, like you just watch the other team's star players if you want. Like
True. Um, but back to football real quick. Tony himself is the senior president of football and analytics for the Jaguars. So the senior president of football, but he basically drafts the team every year. Like, so
yeah, and
he's like,
based off like I'm assuming because he's analytics, it's based off numbers and research and all that
that's what
stuff.
I've, yeah, I was just going to say that in itself, like he's a big stats guy. Like, how like I don't know how he sleeps because apparently he like also watches every college football game every Saturday to know who like the best offensive
Yeah, I'm assuming
lineman
you'd
is.
have to if that's your job, right? Like, yeah.
He would almost have to like he must record the games that start at 8 o'clock and then watch them after the collision when it's live and then like go to sleep at like 3 a.m. and then have to be at NFL at 6. Like,
Now, what is it
geez.
about wrestling promoters that don't sleep? Because we've already heard the same thing about Vince McMahon, right? That he never slept, and like, is it just you have to be crazy to be a wrestling promoter?
Well, if we're saying wrestling promoters, like I would say cocaine. Um, but I mean, yes, if you take that out of the equation, you do have to have like that absurd, like I, I know everyone always complained like, oh, Vince was a micromanager. Yeah, he was to the company's detriment in the end. But if you're not that type of control freak in the wrestling business, there's so many egos, like you'd be stepped
Yeah,
on and walked all over before you realize that someone stepped on you.
and like Tony Khan, we'll talk about that later. But Tony Khan has learned that as he's gone, essentially, right? Because
Yeah.
he started a company with, I mean, the people in the company knew stuff about wrestling, obviously, the people he worked with, but it's still a brand new company with people who've never run a company before. So he had to learn.
Right. And we'll get there. There's some ups and downs in there. And he's also the owner, the vice chairman, and the director of football operations for the Fulham Soccer Club, which he's now a national multi-sports team owner.
Which I also love because they're in different countries on different time zones. So like if he wanted to watch all of those games, they're like they're in the middle of the night, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's absurd. And the fact that like I don't know what the director of football operations does, but like I mean, I imagine that's like the day to day of the team. So like he would have to have like I mean, obviously he has assistants and stuff, but like that means he would like have to have like coaches meetings and like
yeah,
meetings with
I
like
mean,
athletic
I'm sure
staff
he
and
has
stuff.
staff that do a bunch of this stuff, but still, right? You have to be at least somewhat involved. You
Yeah, like
you don't just check out forever and have staff run it for you. Like I'm sure he's at meetings.
yeah, like he has to again, I don't know where the sleep ever happens.
I guess he
uh
sleeps on like it's he's rich, right? So maybe he sleeps on jets. Maybe he's like, I have a 4 hour
True.
flight to England from Chicago, a 5 hour flight, so I'm gonna sleep on that flight. I don't know. Maybe I
There,
don't know.
I mean, hey, that if it's true, it could be a private jet. Like like I mean, probably has like lazy boys in there, not like normal like flight
Yeah, it's
chairs
probably
that
one of the
were
private jets that has like a bed on it or something that you can
yeah.
sleep in. Yeah.
Good call. Now, like all that being the precursor, excuse me, using his business experience that he got through the NFL and through the Fulham Soccer Club, and having a degree in finance, like coming in, you know, he and being an analytics guy, like coming in, he probably knew, oh, okay, I need A, B, and C to set off D, E, and F, which again, it's amazing that it took until, what, 2019, for a wrestling company, excuse me, to come in with like a legit plan that they stuck to.
Yeah, from what I've heard is the first All In that with the Bucks and Cody they did a show that was kind of backed by them and like ROH and New Japan. Like everyone kind of like the ring was like an ROH ring, like they all
Yeah.
kind of contributed to it. But he saw that and saw that it sold tickets and was like, well, they can't fund this themselves forever because it's a cost.
Right.
It cost a lot of money, but he took that as like a proof of concept that like, oh, it can work. If this group of guys had money, they could do something. And I have money and I know wrestling. So I'm gonna like he hadn't worked in wrestling, he hadn't done anything to do with it, but like he knew this isn't, me buying an NFL team based on I know that the NFL is a sport, but that's all I know. Right. Like
right.
He knew enough to know that not only was this viable from like, oh, look how many tickets they sold standpoint, but knew that like the guys in it could be famous, like popular wrestlers. He knew like Cody and the Bucks and Kenny Omega, like he knew who they were and what they had done and that they could be the backbone of a company.
Yeah, this is where I was going to throw my 2 cents in. I didn't even put this in the outline. It was the first time that like all the pressure was, I mean, it was on everybody, but it wasn't like, oh, we have all this and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. Like it was the first time that like if you didn't pay any attention to indie wrestling, you knew who Cody was, obviously, but you watched that first Dynamite, you probably didn't know who a single person besides Jericho and Cody were.
Yeah, it's interesting because and Cody wasn't, Hulk Hogan. This wasn't,
exactly
John Cena leaving WWE to start a new wrestling company, right? Or The Rock.
Exactly.
If like, Steve Austin or The Rock or whatever left, you'd be like, oh yeah, everybody knows who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrestling fans knew who Cody was, and wrestling fans who spent any time paying attention to the internet knew maybe Kenny Omega, right? Like in terms of non-WWE guys, like they knew Jericho, they knew Cody, and they might know if they hadn't seen Kenny Omega wrestle, they'd at least maybe heard of Kenny Omega, right? But that's kind of it. And none of these guys were household names. They were known to wrestling fans, but you couldn't tell in 2019, you couldn't tell a non-wrestling fan, hey, Cody's starting a new company. They'd be like, who is Cody? Like they would have no idea.
Stardust.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You would say, if you said, oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin is starting a new company, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know that guy from the 90s, right? Yeah. Or Hulk Hogan or The Rock. But outside of those, like Cody wasn't that well known. It was still a risk to do this.
Right. And that initial meeting, when he contacted the Bucks, I remember reading in their book, like he said he like wanted to sit down and like have a conversation with them, and like they kind of knew who he was, but I think it was at a Wrestle Kingdom, excuse me, and they were like, we just got done, like the show is over and we're gonna go meet this Tony Khan guy, and he's like, Matt was like, we're thinking we're gonna, meet this dude in a suit. He was like, dude straight up had a Bullet Club shirt on and like sat in normal seats, like didn't use his clout to be like in a box or something. Like he wanted to be like ringside, I think. Like, so he paid like his own good money to sit like on the floor.
Because that meeting, they probably expected like a business meeting. Like the Bucks had been in business meetings, right? They had to book meetings to book arenas, and they had to book, merchandise, whatever. Like they'd been in business meetings. So they knew what to expect from a business meeting, but I'm sure Tony just talked mostly about wrestling.
Well, he talked about wrestling, and he he told them that he had an initial financial backer, which was himself and his dad. His dad put initial money in the company, and in my opinion, I'm guessing that him and Tony splits, like, if his dad bought the sets and the ring and like all that, Tony bought the TV stuff and then
Right.
paid his dad off, whatever one, because his dad's not an owner, he was just a financial backer at the
Yeah. And I
beginning.
think Tony has like connections with like the TV industry. So he would get the connections with like TBS and
Eh,
TNT and all that
right.
stuff. Like that was him.
So like he went in with all that. So like imagine from the wrestling from the wrestler standpoint, like the Bucks in this, like, okay, so wait, your dad legit owns a football team. Okay. Oh, your yacht has not a YouTube page. Your yacht has its own Wikipedia page. Okay, this guy's not like the typical wrestling guy who like, yeah, I got all this money coming in. I got a guy coming in. He's gonna bring it in.
Right. Well, it's
Like,
coming. Yeah, I'm gonna have that. If I get these 5 deals working out,
yeah,
we're gonna have. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, okay, so that you see all this, and then like the again, the fact that in, well, this was maybe like 2016, the fact that he came in with a business plan and a business model and showed them like, hey, here's the numbers that you did. If we put these pieces here, we could do this, and the numbers are
Right.
telling us and it's like not an if, this is a when we can do this.
And he had connections with TV that could be like, oh
Right.
no, one of the hardest parts for a wrestling company is getting a TV deal.
Yeah, and he
So
knew
he could say,
somebody.
oh, if we do this and this and this, TBS has said they'll give us, a time slot.
Yeah. And I mean, that right there was the things that were like, even for TNA, like TNA has been around for a million years, but like, well, when I had cable, I couldn't tell you what channel it was on.
Yeah.
Like,
For a while they were on Spike TV. That was the best times they were on Spike TV.
okay.
And then they moved around to like 6 different like networks I've never heard of. Like a bunch of like
Exactly.
random things. Yeah. That's the hardest part of being a wrestling company is like ECW had that problem was getting
Yeah.
on TV.
And again, like, imagine like you're hearing like a channel that it's not like some
Yeah.
offshoot of an offshoot. It's like, oh, like that's like in every household.
And it's a
Like,
channel that and it's a channel that has aired wrestling before.
exactly. And so bringing all that in, must have been not only a breath of fresh air, but like, okay, this is the first time that something like, it looked good on paper and it looked good on, like, not by name. There wasn't like a name attached to it that was gonna make it work.
Right.
The numbers were saying that it was you guys. You
Yeah.
have
It's not
this.
like, oh, if we do all this plus we somehow get John Cena to show up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then like you take that, and I'm sure one of these will be a deep dive into the, like, Chris Jericho and how they kind of needed him
Right.
in this too, and we'll get there, but like someone even like Jericho broke that mold, because they didn't go to a a Hulk Hogan, a legend type, like, not that Jericho's not a legend, like Jericho has done like a bajillion things in the business, but it was somebody who understood the business and never, like, Jericho understood that the company needed him,
And
but
he was a current wrestler.
yeah, and
It's
he
not like
didn't. Go
if The
ahead.
Rock started a wrestling company today, it would be
True,
like The Rock presents this company and he would be like the GM or something and maybe wrestle once, right? Like
true,
he wouldn't
true.
be on the shows. Whereas he was going to be there all the time. Like he was a current wrestler who was going to wrestle regularly and be part of the show.
And like, and he didn't put his ego, like, I mean, again, we always talk about, to be in this industry you have to have a little bit of an ego, but it wasn't like, oh, okay, I need my own dressing room, I need $6,000 in cash a night, and but like, he kind of like, I mean, he had a contract obviously, but it was like, no, we're going to put the company over for the first time. Again, it's amazing that it took this long for
I
someone to
even
like
think
realize
the
that.
naming was smart because like you're putting all elite wrestling in it. Like if you know wrestling, you know who the elite was. You know it was Kenny Omega and the Bucks
Yeah.
and Cody. Like you knew that. But if they were gone, like 10, 15, 20 years from now when they're not wrestling anymore, the name still works as just a company name.
Yeah.
All Elite Wrestling. Whereas if you had called it, Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes Wrestling, like
Yeah.
you need Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes to be
Yeah.
on that show or it loses the name, right? So that was smart. Even that was like a good branding viewpoint of like, yes, people will know what elite means, but if you don't know what elite means, it's just a word that everybody knows. Like it makes sense to someone who doesn't know who they are.
Yeah. And now here we are. We're gonna fast forward to
I have one question for you
oh
before
yes,
before you
yes,
fast forward.
yes.
The Bucks and Cody and everyone had success with the first All In, and if Tony Khan had not showed up and given them money, they probably would have been like another All In, or they would have booked another show, right?
Yeah,
Those guys.
definitely.
They might not have been a company, or they might not have had a TV deal, and they might not have had weekly shows, but they were probably going to keep booking, supercards like every 6 months or something, right? They'd have a show.
Absolutely.
Do you think so? They could have been at least somewhat successful without Tony Khan, right? Not the level that they got, but they could have been, something.
Mhm.
Do you think that the opposite would have worked if Tony Khan had approached anyone else? That he could have made a company out of it. If it wasn't the Elite, could it have been somebody else? And I like pretend for this that I'm not. You can't be working for WWE. Like it might have worked with like John Cena. But anyone else who wasn't working for WWE at the time would it have worked?
With Tony, yes, and I'll tell you why. Because he had his finger on the pulse of indie wrestling, and like he was going to those PWG shows. Like, yeah, I had read Darby Allin's name. I didn't know what Darby Allin looked like. I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like he knew
Yeah, like
those
could he
people.
have done this if he got MJF and Darby Allin and the
Yeah,
Lucha Bros and that was his guys? Like, could he have done it without the Elite?
yeah, I think so. And he would have started on a like he would have done like a Ring of Honor type deal. Like it would have been maybe even started on the internet and then picked up its speed and then got itself on TV. Like
Yeah, I think it would have launched a bit slower without
yeah,
because the Elite were
definitely.
by far the biggest names in indie wrestling, like outside of WWE at that
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
I think
And
the only other person who could have started at the same level, and they tried, was if they had got Punk from the beginning.
that would have been, yeah, if he would have came from day one, that would have been that would have been absurd actually.
Yeah. I mean, they tried. It just didn't
Yeah.
work out, but they tried. They
No,
sent him a text message, and apparently he didn't like text messages, so he got mad. I don't know.
oh, look, he's one of them guys. Like you can't call
That
him
is
any.
that is the story, but it's disputed. He says, not to go too far into this, he
Yeah, yeah.
says that Cody or the Bucks, I don't remember who, texted him going, "Hey, we want to do All In before Tony Khan was involved. We want to do
Mhm.
this wrestling show. It's in Chicago. That'd be really cool if you were a part of it." And he said he thought it was weird that they just texted him out of the blue as opposed to like setting up a meeting, which I get, I guess, I don't know. But according to Cody, who, very truthful Cody, he's never lied.
Right.
Cody says that never happened. So one of them's lying. I don't know who it is, but
Jeez.
yeah.
The wrestling ego.
But they're all, yeah. I don't know.
That
That's Punk showing up at the beginning would have been massive. If they were like CM Punk's in this new company, that would have
yeah,
been incredible.
it would have been like no offense, it would have been like an ESPN moment. Seriously.
Yeah.
Especially because like I think the Jaguars held an event and I think it kind of did make ESPN anyway.
Right, just because it was at the
It
first
was at the
AEW like
stadium.
press conference was at the Jaguar
Yeah.
Stadium. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
yeah. That's the only thing That's the
Oh,
only
okay.
thing I wanted to ask was like, who else could have done it? And I think you're right. Other people could have done it, but it would have started off slower. Like if it had been
Yeah.
MJF and a bunch of guys, it could have started off slower. I think the Elite were the right people at the time because they'd already showed that they can be very successful indie wrestlers. Like no one had done what the Bucks had done and just never been in WWE and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like no one
Yeah.
had ever done that before. I think the only other person who could have done it was Punk.
Yeah, totally. And I'm seeing now. This is only because AEW exists. GCW took that route. They did the internet stuff. They did all that. They also banked on Matt Cardona. He put them on his back. But
Right.
I would say someone might yell at me because there's a bigger one, but I would say they're the biggest indie company,
Right.
going right now, and they're paying like, like Shotzi like debuted there. Like she
Right.
left WWE and went to GC. Like nobody would do that. Like even, well, not
Yeah,
6 years
I
ago.
think that's where AEW would have been without the Bucks and
Yeah,
Kenny and
totally.
Cody. Like they still would have been a company, but they would have had to start off there. It would have taken longer. They wouldn't be selling out stadiums in 5 years like
No,
they
no,
were now.
they might be where GCW is like right now. They
Right.
doing the Hammerstein Ballroom like maybe 3 times a year, and internet pay-per-view and stuff.
Yeah, still having a company, still being, successful, but not,
Mhm.
internationally successful.
Yeah. Now, like I said, we're gonna fast forward, and the next three traits of Tony Khan are that they're absurd. That again, it took almost uh, to the year 2019 for these things to happen. He treats all his employees and wrestlers with respect. Um, you know that in itself, he pays people. He offered health insurance, like all these things. Like I remember Chuck Taylor and Trent, like when it was like on an early episode of maybe even AEW Unrestricted, like they were so like they couldn't believe they were getting insurance. They were like, that's got to be the scam, right? And they're like, no, dude, you have a contract. They're like, yeah, but like he's not going to give us insurance. Like,
The fact that I remember FTR saying, I think it might have been All In or one of the bigger shows, FTR saying that like the company booked the hotel for them and the company got the like, everyone got on a
oh
bus and
yeah,
drove to the venue. And he was
yeah,
like, we'd never had that before.
like it just makes sense.
Where
Like
like
why?
why would you not do that? Like
Exactly,
why did Vince McMahon spend all of his time making people book like their own travel to get to places, right? Like why?
exactly,
Wouldn't it just make more sense to like to have everyone, then they're all there, right? You pick them all up and you
exactly.
drive them to the venue and no one gets lost. If you tell everyone, hey, you have to rent your own car and drive across the country, like some of them might not make it on time, right? Their car might break down, they might go the wrong way, they might just like end up somewhere else. Whereas if
Yeah,
book all their stuff for them and drive them to the venue, like that just makes sense to do that.
it,
It's so weird.
it's again. Again, that's only number one. This number two is actually books, pay-per-views, and television that his fans want to see. If it's not going well, the fans let him know and it changes. Like they have made some mistakes and it has been vindicated via the voice of he reads the internet.
See, Tony Khan doesn't like no one books the perfect wrestling company, right? Like everyone could have problems with
Absolutely.
everything, right? Like there are things that
Absolutely.
I don't like that AEW has done, and there's things I don't like any companies, just like any company, right?
True. Yeah.
But at least in the last, 10, 15 years of Vince McMahon running WWE and Triple H a little bit too, they seem to go out of their way to make the audience mad. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you don't like when we do this? We're going to do it 10 more times. Screw you. We know what we're talking about. You don't." And I'm like, "Why would you do that? How does that help you? Like what are you doing?"
They don't know what they want. Like, uh, and
Like
here we
like like they don't want Roman Reigns, 5 years ago. They don't want Roman Reigns in every single main event. So we're going to have double main events and we're going to put in both of them. Screw you. Like,
I exactly. I never understood that. Like again, talked about Matt Cardona like 5 minutes ago when he was Zack Ryder. Like people used to chant, "We want Ryder," and he would be on that Superstars show. And
yeah.
like during Raw, they would be chanting, "We want Ryder," and then he'd be in like a backstage segment, and like the place would go nuts, and he would never get a match.
I
Like,
think it was Miro Rusev who said when he had that Rusev Day thing, he had a gimmick where every day was
yeah,
Rusev Day. And people would chant Rusev Day throughout the shows. Apparently, Vince McMahon told him to stop promoting that chant because that's not what they want the audience to chant. And he's like, but I'm on your show. It's not like they're chanting for the other. If they were chanting
right,
for,
Kenny
Kenny
Omega,
Omega,
yeah,
sure. But like he's he's one of their wrestlers on their show. If they want to see him, isn't that good?
yeah.
Like
It's like on the back of your ticket, it tells you you're allowed to cheer and boo whoever you want. Like, but if you read the back of the WWE one, that costs you $10 if you if you cheer the wrong person. It just comes out of your bank account.
they're so bizarre. But yeah, it did take like Tony Khan doing this for people to be like, oh, you don't have to be just a total jerk to everybody, the fans and the wrestlers all the
I know.
time. Like,
And well, and the last one is, after 6 years, he's finally letting some other people do the work, which again, I you see the failures of all the other companies. I get why he was apprehensive. Like, again, the whole ego thing. Like, if he would tell, um, I'm just going to pick on Dean Malenko because I know he's a coach there. Like, if he told Dean Malenko, "Hey, you and um, Jericho have to train Jade today," and he'd be like, "Well, no, I plan on sitting back here and drinking energy drinks all day." Like, some people would be like, "Oh, okay," and then just walk away. And then you're paying a guy like hundreds of thousands of dollars to do nothing. And that's why those companies went broke.
and I get it in the management standpoint that like if you want to tell, you know, Chris Jericho that you want him to do ABC in this match, right?
Mhm.
It you can tell Dean Malenko, hey, next time you see Chris Jericho, can you tell him to do ABC in this match? And Dean Malenko will say sure, and he'll go tell him.
Right.
But I can see from a management viewpoint being like, oh, I could just tell him, right? And you could, and it's probably in that moment it's easier. Then you don't have to go through another person. You can just tell. But like, you can't just do everything all the time, right? You can't
Yeah,
talk to every single wrestler about every single storyline at all times because you can't, because you have a finite amount of time. So you do
exactly.
need other people to be involved. You can't. You can say, oh, I want Jericho to win this match, but then him and Dean Malenko will work out how that happens.
Exactly. And that's, he's starting to like loosen his grip on things now, which you can kind of tell because I don't want to say that there's more continuity because the continuity was always kind of there, but
And the continuity is a lot of that is him.
yeah. And like now it's more, I want to say it's even more cohesive, but like we talk about it all the time. Like, everything makes sense. There's like 50 people who could be champion at any given time.
Notice in terms of continuity, not like that the storylines all make sense because they always have.
Mhm.
The biggest thing I've noticed, they still do it sometimes, but they do it less, is if, the first match, it ends with someone getting hit in the face with the ring bell and disqualified. That's the only time they do someone gets hit in the face with something disqualified on that show. They don't do that
Yeah.
finish again. There were
Yeah.
times in early AEW when like there was a ring bell spot in the first match, and then the third match also had a ring bell
Yeah.
spot, and the fifth match also had a ring bell spot because they all booked their own matches and didn't talk to each other.
Right.
And now they don't do that as often. Like if it happened before with like, that's why one of the reasons I picked on Mox for bleeding all the time. It's not that he bled too much because your standpoint was correct that like people in fights bleed. Like that
Yeah.
is true. But you can't have every single match end with a stoppage due to blood loss because that's
Exactly.
boring, right? You have to change the match. Like every match should be different. And they're getting a lot better at that now, where like if Hangman's gonna win a match by choking somebody out, he's the only one who does that on that show.
Right. Oh, it's everything is, I mean, I'm just happy that AEW exists. And it's just kind of just like a thank you to Tony Khan for making it
I
exist.
do have one other question for you.
Yeah.
And it's related to the response that people give Tony Khan. Because for a guy who's seems like a good guy, I mean, we
Yeah.
don't know him, right? But
Exactly.
he seems like a good guy. Seems like at most an average person, right? He doesn't seem mean. He may
Yeah.
not. We don't know if he's the greatest guy on earth, but like he seems fine. Like he
Mhm.
seems like he's unobjectionable, right? The worst thing he's ever done is like get overexcited when he talks or like tweet too much, right? Like for as far as we know.
Yeah.
Um, he gets a lot of people hating him.
Yeah.
And I know part of that is like the WWE audience being just hating that there's another company because they have been trained to only want one company. Like I know part of that. So ignore those people.
Yeah.
Right. He gets a lot of hate just for like, oh, he's a money mark or he's playing with action figures or he's whatever.
I have the
Do
go ahead.
do you think he gets that because he knew a lot about wrestling, but he wasn't a wrestling guy?
Well, here's my thing. It's the pettiness of the wrestling industry because I'm going to say one thing. And it like once I figured this out, it like opened my eyes to everything. The wrestling industry, everybody knows that it's insane and it's, everybody lies and everybody's basically garbage. But it's
Yeah,
the
the
only
number of people, the number of wrestlers who are probably just legit good people is probably very small.
right. And it's also the only industry like do people like I don't know the who owns the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Like now it's a corporation. It's
Oh,
Rogers.
okay. Well, we'll pretend that Lemieux still owns the Penguins then.
Sure.
Nobody ever like Flyers fans don't go, oh, Mario's playing with his action figures again.
Right.
Like, no, it's any other business. Like the owner is looked at as like, oh, just like some prestigious rich guy that like
Right.
gets credit for giving people entertainment.
Right.
But in the wrestling industry, if it's not somebody with the last name McMahon, it's like, oh, his money is fake somehow. I don't know. Like people just don't, they're again trained to think a certain way. And that's why, like, once I brought it to pro sports and like, ESPN doesn't say like, well, the Steelers are good, but like the Roonies really need to sell the team because, they're on TV too much. Like, I,
Now, do you think
I
part of that does come because he's not a McMahon, obviously, but he's also not from wrestling? Like, other companies who've run, like Vern Gagne was a wrestler, or even like
I
Eric Bischoff ran WCW, but he'd been in like an announcer for like other companies before. Like he'd been in wrestling before
yeah, like
he
he
did
wasn't
that.
in the club.
Right. Like Tony Khan just wasn't in
Yeah.
wrestling at all. And just
Yeah.
they're kind of like he's not Jerry Jarrett's son. Like he's not from a
Yeah.
wrestling family. He's not in wrestling. Is there some sort of resentment that he like bought himself into the club? Like he gets to be here because his family has money.
There is that resentment, and then there's the resentment for all the people that felt they were also entitled to work for him. Um,
Right.
like just because it exists and you have a name for yourself doesn't mean that there's a spot for you. Like
Right.
there's more spots now, but also again, with the wrestling industry being insane, basically inhabited by insane people who have very thin skin, they take that as, oh my God, he's horrible. He didn't
Yeah.
hire me. He's a piece of trash.
I mean,
And
and like you said, there's more spots now, but a lot of those spots will probably go to people who maybe you were like an assistant producer
right.
5 years ago and you've been there for 5 years and now they need a new producer and like they're going to promote the guy who's done it for them for 5 years rather
Yeah.
than hiring someone who, worked for a wrestling company in 1996.
Yeah, like your name no longer holds clout. I mean, it holds clout, but like your name's not going to get you in the door at AEW anymore because it's a machine now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't have to name anybody's name, but like the people who weren't offered jobs, you could tell
Right.
that why they're upset
Yeah.
because again, it comes with wrestling. As soon as you get trained, your skin loses like 2.5 layers. You're done with wrestling training. It just comes off and you're like, what the hell? And like everything bothers you from that point on.
Yeah. Do you
Anyway,
think that before we go, that
yes.
I mean, obviously it hasn't been smooth sailing. There's been issues. If it's a company, there's always issues.
Yeah.
Do you think that the stuff with like obviously the stuff with Punk was bad?
Mhm.
But all the other stuff with, the rumors of, Miro and Malachi not wanting to lose or like, backstage fights between people or like there's always going to be disagreements between coworkers.
Mhm.
But do you think Tony Khan has learned from that stuff to be like, oh, if just because someone is a cool wrestler, like, Punk or Malachi Black or Miro, like they seem like cool wrestlers. I like watching them. I think they add something
Yeah.
to my show. But how do you think he's learned, oh, I don't need to hire every cool wrestler because
Yes.
some of them aren't going to fit in with what we have here?
Yes, and I think he's also like now he has enough like people that work for him that might even warn them like, "Hey, they're a good person, but they like around here the things that they do might not fly." You know what I
Right.
mean?
Like
Like
his personality is not going to fit in with like who we
y-
already have here. Or yeah.
yeah, like, "Oh, hey, I worked with him or her and, like again, great person, but you get them in a big group like this and how we're all together here like they like to pick fights and da 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 da. Like it's just in their
Right.
personality. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna have that going for him now too. And again, I'm not saying that Rusev and or Malachi were like that, but like he might not have known that they had a little bit of an ego problem until they
Right.
were hired.
Right. And I think he's also learned from, I mean, watching from the outside, the stuff with Punk and everything seemed
Mhm.
pretty obvious what the solution was. Like, get everyone together and make
Yeah.
them talk about it. Like, that seemed like they should have done that. And maybe I'm assuming it was harder than that. I'm assuming they didn't want to talk to each other, or like I'm assuming all of that was harder. But I think now this is based on no information other than the fact that the backstage and stuff seems to have stopped.
Right.
I think that he's kind of learned that, like, oh, if you see a little thing like that starting, you have to do something about it
Before it's yeah.
before it becomes a year of them quietly being mad at each other, and then it explodes into a whole thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, like having more coaches and more like trainers, like a lot of oops, I ran into my microphone. Sorry. A lot of that, a lot of those people have their fingers on the pulse of, what's going on too. So things might not even have to get to him now,
Right. And a lot of
like
that comes with just experience that they've never done in this before, right?
right,
Like,
right.
he hasn't done this before, but also the people who worked for him, maybe they weren't in those exact same roles wherever they had worked before. So they didn't necessarily know what to do, or they assumed that someone else was handling it or something. And now they've all kind of learned.
Yeah, I mean, it is a growing process, and like, we've found out recently that Evil Uno has a bigger role backstage than we all thought, and apparently Ortiz just said that, his contract's coming up fairly soon, but he would prefer to either be a coach or like a manager.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'll do anything that they
And like
want.
Chuck
So
Taylor works behind the scenes doing a bunch of stuff now.
yeah, so, like, the people that were there at the beginning, I think Tony is again, like, when Paul White wanted to be a be a trainer at NXT and they fired him. I mean, like or he quit, I can't remember, but, they
Yeah.
told him no, like, imagine that. I don't know, I
And
don't
he's learning like what people are good at too, right? Like, just
yeah,
because you're a good wrestler doesn't mean you're a good backstage person. Just because you do
right.
your own promos and your own matches doesn't mean you can do them for other people, right? Like, he's learning all that stuff on the go. And yeah, no one expected AEW to grow as fast as it did. Like, I think part
Also true.
with how it all unfolded, the stuff with Punk and with Miro and with Malachi and all that stuff. Even stuff with Britt Baker that we know rumors of. I
Right.
think no one expected AEW to be what it was so fast. Like, when Punk signed up to work there in what, 2022?
Yeah.
2022?
Yeah.
2022. They were already bigger than a 2-year-old company should have been, especially
100%.
especially one that had, missed a year because they had to perform in front of basically
Yeah.
everyone, right? Like, no one expected them to be that big so fast. And when you started in 2019, you were booking a show, they were still in big arenas, but that they had, 50 wrestlers on hand, right? And a lot of
Right.
wrestlers were indie wrestlers or people who didn't have national TV experience. And suddenly, 2 years later, they have Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and, all these people who are like well-known, established wrestlers, Adam Cole, people like that,
Yeah.
that managing someone like that is obviously different than managing someone who's never been on TV before, right? Like,
True.
when MJF started in AEW, he was good, but he'd never been on like national TV.
Right.
So they kind of would work together to be like, oh, what works, what doesn't work? This is how we do this. This is how we do whatever. Whereas you can't tell Bryan Danielson how to do a TV match. Like, he does,
Right.
right? Like, it's different talking to him. Not to say Danielson's a problem, because it seems like he's great,
Right, right.
but it's different talking to MJF in 2019 about how to structure a match and talking to Bryan Danielson in 2022 about how to structure a match. And they had to learn that because they missed kind of like the small company stage. They went from a small
Yeah.
company to a huge company in like a year and a half.
Yeah. It's very true. Man, that's absurd. When you think about it, it was like 18 months it went through the roof. That's
And
awesome.
it was through like COVID when they
Yeah.
couldn't have shows and like, yeah, it was crazy.
That's nuts.
That's
Oh,
another, like, we don't want to spend the whole day on this, but like, even the COVID stuff, like the fact that they survived through
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was gonna get into that. The little research that I did into it, because it was a whole new thing, a whole other thing. The fact that they came up with the idea to put other indie wrestlers who
Yeah.
just wanted to be on TV in the crowd, was, I mean, that's where the guns started. I mean, obviously their dad got them there, but
Right.
nobody knew that the guns wrestled. You know what I mean? Willow,
Yeah.
Jericho called that one guy Pineapple Pete one time. His
Right.
new gimmick is Pineapple Pete. He's like
Right.
like incredible.
I think we will have to do a whole episode on that like COVID time of AEW because
Yeah.
that was a whole thing. Even the fact that they had a venue, right? Like I know it's
Yeah.
because he owns the Jaguars, but like and it was an outdoor venue, so like they could
Yeah.
have shows. Whereas if you had the only venue they had was a closed stadium, they probably couldn't have people in the crowd. So that
Absolutely.
whole thing, the fact that they figured that out as a company that had been around for a year, and obviously no one had ever gone through that before, like even that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just have to think of how lucky they were that, you know, again, that Tony Khan was a billionaire and he wasn't just Jim Cornette. Nothing against Jim Cornette.
Right.
But I mean, he had access to an entire football stadium that had a whole separate stage show or stage setup,
Yeah, and he could pay them even though he wasn't selling tickets, right? Like a lot of
Right.
wrestling companies, like you have to sell tickets to be able to pay the wrestlers. He
Yeah.
sold 0 tickets and could still pay people to wrestle for him. So
Yeah. So yeah, that was a very special situation, but like you hate to say that there was any positive through the pandemic, but like all the stars aligned, like for them to own the Jaguars, to have stadium access, to be basically have unlimited income, to have people, like they weren't just paying wrestlers, they were also paying like editors and TV producers
camera
and
people and everything. Yeah.
yeah, like they had a full staff to take care of, and he did it. Like
Yeah.
that's very admirable.
I think this might have to be a whole episode that time.
Yeah,
It was a difficult time, but it was a pretty special time for AEW.
yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll look into that for a couple weeks. Well, that's all we have for this week. So we are at Elite City Pod on all social media. We are on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and hit the bell. I think I got them all. That helps the algorithm, and you know, more than likely be back next week, depending on what topic we decide to.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know we've been a little inconsistent. I blame the Toronto Blue Jays, but
well, that's what I was just going to say. Rick, he has a son who's very involved with the baseball team and the Jays. Is it tonight that they can win or tomorrow?
tomorrow it's Halloween.
Oh, I think okay.
Yeah,
So oh man, big night.
I know.
Got to go get trick or treat candy and then watch
And
the
then watch the
Jays.
baseball game. Yeah, it's gonna be a good
Yeah.
time.
So yeah, we'll see what happens here in the next week or two. But until then, thank you all, and we'll see you soon. So till then, later.